My family disowned me for choosing math over medicine, until they discovered my algorithms were worth $30 million. But by then, I had already built a life with people who believed in me from the beginning. Growing up in the Garrison household meant one thing was crystal clear from day one. You became a doctor or you became a disappointment. My parents, both cardiologists, had this vision mapped out for their 3 children like a medical textbook diagram. My older sister Sarah followed the script perfectly, graduating from Harvard Medical School with honors. My younger brother Michael was already acing his pre-med courses at Stanford. And then there was me, the mathematical anomaly who dared to see beauty in numbers instead of stethoscopes. The first crack in our family foundation appeared during my senior year of high school. I remember sitting at our mahogany dining table, the same one where we'd celebrated Sarah's acceptance to medical school just 2 years earlier. The acceptance letter from MIT's mathematics program lay open in front of me, and the silence was deafening. My father's chopsticks hovered motionless over his bowl of rice, his face a mask of controlled disappointment. Mathematics? My mother finally spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. David, you have a 4.0 GPA in all your science courses. You scored in the 99th percentile on the MCAT practice tests. Why would you throw away such a promising future? I tried to explain the elegance of theoretical mathematics, the way complex equations could unlock secrets of the universe that no medical procedure ever could. But their eyes glazed over like I was speaking a foreign language. In their world, success was measured in patient lives saved, not in theorems proved. The real drama began during my sophomore year at MIT. Family gatherings became exercises in subtle humiliation. Every holiday dinner featured the same routine. Sarah would share stories about her surgical rotations. Michael would update everyone on his research with cancer cells, and I would sit there, the family's mathematical black sheep, watching my parents' faces light up with pride for everyone except me. So, David? My Aunt Linda would always ask with that patronizing smile, "Are you still playing with your little equations?" The word playing stung every single time, as if 4 years of rigorous mathematical training, sleeping 3 hours a night, and pushing the boundaries of algorithmic theory was some kind of elaborate hobby. My parents stopped mentioning me to their colleagues. At medical conferences, they would beam with pride talking about Dr. Sarah Garrison's groundbreaking cardiac research, or Michael's promising work in oncology. But when someone asked about their middle child, the conversation would shift awkwardly to the weather. The breaking point came during my master's thesis defense. I had developed a new approach to machine learning algorithms that could predict market fluctuations with unprecedented accuracy. It was groundbreaking work that had my professors buzzing with excitement. I called my parents, hoping they might finally understand the significance of what I was doing. "That's nice, sweetie," my mother said absently. "But, it's not too late to take some pre-med courses. Michael's friend transferred into medical school after getting a mathematics degree. You could still." I hung up the phone and didn't call them back for 3 months. During my PhD years, I threw myself into research with the kind of intensity that comes from having something to prove. My advisor, Dr. Martinez, became more of a father figure than my actual father. He saw the potential in my work, encouraged my wildest theoretical leaps, and celebrated every breakthrough like it was his own. It was Dr. Martinez who introduced me to Elena Rodriguez, a brilliant computer scientist working on artificial intelligence applications. Elena had this way of looking at my equations like they were poetry, understanding not just the mathematical elegance but the real-world implications. She became my research partner, then my girlfriend, and eventually my wife. Elena's family embraced me from the beginning. Her parents, both teachers, were fascinated by my work. Her father would spend hours asking me to explain different algorithms, genuinely curious about the mathematics behind them. Her mother would brag to her friends about her daughter's genius mathematician husband. It was the first time I felt valued for who I was, not disappointed in for who I wasn't. Meanwhile, my own family's disappointment had crystallized into something harder: indifference. They stopped asking about my work entirely. Christmas cards were addressed to the Garrison family with no mention of Elena, even after we'd been married for 2 years. When I tried to explain that I was working on something that could revolutionize financial markets, My father just nodded politely and changed the subject to Sarah's latest publication in the Journal of Cardiology. The isolation was complete by the time I finished my PhD. I had built these incredible algorithms, mathematical structures that could process vast amounts of data and identify patterns invisible to human analysis. But in my family's eyes, I was still the son who had chosen numbers over saving lives, selfishness over service. Elena and I moved to San Francisco, where I joined a small fintech startup as their chief mathematician. The company, Dataflow Solutions, specialized in high-frequency trading algorithms. My mathematical models became the backbone of their entire operation. Within 18 months, our trading algorithms were generating returns that made seasoned Wall Street veterans take notice. Elena was pregnant with our first child when Dataflow's CEO approached me with an offer that would change everything. Google had been monitoring our work, impressed by the mathematical sophistication of our prediction models. They wanted to acquire not just our company, but specifically my algorithms. The offer was staggering: $30 million for the mathematical frameworks I had developed. $30 million for the little equations I had been playing with for the past 8 years. The irony wasn't lost on me. Here I was, about to become wealthier than anyone in my family had ever dreamed, and they had no idea. They still saw me as the disappointment who had chosen math over medicine, the son who had wasted his potential on abstract theories. I didn't tell them about the acquisition immediately. Elena and I were busy with lawyers, contracts, and the overwhelming reality of sudden wealth. We bought a house in Palo Alto, set up trust funds for our future children, and started planning the kind of life we had only imagined. But the universe has a way of ensuring that secrets don't stay hidden forever. The news broke on a Tuesday morning in March. TechCrunch published an article titled, "Google Acquires Dataflow Solutions for $80 million, Focuses on Revolutionary Trading Algorithms." The article mentioned me by name, describing my mathematical models as breakthrough applications of theoretical mathematics to real-world financial problems. Elena called me at work, laughing. "Your mother just called," she said. "She saw the article. She wants to know if the David Garrison mentioned in TechCrunch is really you." I could picture my mother's face, the same woman who had spent years dismissing my work as impractical, suddenly realizing that her son's little equations had just made him more money than most people see in 10 lifetimes. The phone calls started within hours. First my mother, then my father, then Sarah, then Michael. Each conversation followed the same pattern. Initial shock, followed by awkward pride, followed by attempts to reconnect as if the past 8 years of indifference had never happened. "David, we always knew you were brilliant," my mother said during one particularly surreal conversation. "We just didn't understand how important your work was. But I understood something they didn't. The money wasn't the real victory. The real victory was the family I had built with Elena, the daughter we were expecting, the community of mathematicians and researchers who had valued my work from the beginning. When my parents suggested a family dinner to celebrate my success, I agreed. But I brought Elena, and I brought Dr. Martinez, and I brought 2 of my closest colleagues from Dataflow. I wanted them to see the family that had believed in me when my own family couldn't. The dinner was everything I had expected and nothing I had hoped for. My parents tried to take credit for my success, talking about how they had always encouraged my mathematical interests. Sarah mentioned how she had always known I was destined for greatness. Michael suggested we invest in his medical research startup. But the most revealing moment came when my father pulled me aside after dinner. "David," he said, his voice heavy with something that might have been regret, "I hope you understand that we were just trying to guide you toward a secure future. We didn't know that mathematics could be so lucrative. Even now, faced with the undeniable success of my choices, he couldn't see past the money to the actual value of the work. He still didn't understand that I had found my passion, my purpose, my calling in those equations he had dismissed for so many years." Elena squeezed my hand under the table, and I realized something profound. This dinner wasn't a homecoming. It was a goodbye. I was saying goodbye to the version of myself that had spent years seeking their approval, years trying to prove that mathematics was worthy of their respect. As we drove home that night, Elena asked me how I felt about the whole experience. I thought about it for a long time, watching the lights of San Francisco blur past our windows. I feel free, I finally said. For the first time in my life, I feel completely free. The months that followed brought more recognition than I had ever imagined. My algorithms were featured in academic journals, financial magazines, and technology conferences. I was invited to speak at MIT, Harvard, and Stanford. The mathematical community that had nurtured my growth was celebrating not just my success, but the validation of pure mathematical research in practical applications. My family's attempts to reconnect continued, but they felt hollow now. They were proud of my wealth, impressed by my recognition, but they still didn't understand my work. They still saw mathematics as the means to an end, not the beautiful, elegant, essential language of the universe that had captured my imagination from the beginning. Elena gave birth to our daughter, Maya, 6 months after the acquisition. Holding her in my arms, I thought about the world I wanted to create for her. A world where passion mattered more than prestige, where curiosity was valued over conformity, where a child's dreams were nurtured regardless of how unconventional they might seem. Dr. Martinez became Maya's godfather. Elena's parents became the grandparents who would teach her to value knowledge for its own sake, not just for what it could buy. My mathematical colleagues became the uncles and aunts who would show her that intelligence comes in many forms, that success can be measured in ways that have nothing to do with money. The real transformation wasn't in my bank account or my professional recognition. The real transformation was in my understanding of what family actually means. Family isn't just the people who share your DNA. Family is the people who believe in you when you're nobody, who support your dreams even when they don't understand them, who celebrate your victories because they genuinely care about your happiness. 2 years later, I established the Martinez Foundation for Mathematical Education, named after the man who had become my true mentor. The foundation provides scholarships for students from families who don't understand or support mathematical careers. Elena jokes that I'm building an army of mathematical misfits, but I prefer to think of it as creating a family for the kinds of kids I used to be. My biological family still reaches out occasionally. They share my achievements on social media, tell their friends about their successful son, and send Christmas cards addressed to the Garrison Rodriguez family. But there's a distance now that money can't bridge, a recognition that we're connected by history but not by understanding. The final irony came last month, when Sarah called to tell me that her son, my nephew, had expressed interest in mathematics. "He's brilliant with numbers," she said, "but I'm worried he won't be able to make a living with it. Could you maybe talk to him about more practical career paths?" I almost laughed. Here was the next generation, another mathematical mind in the Garrison family, and they were about to make the same mistake all over again. But this time, I could be the voice of encouragement instead of the cautionary tale. Actually, I told Sarah, I'd love to talk to him about mathematics, about the beauty of numbers, the elegance of proofs, the way mathematical thinking can unlock mysteries that change the world. And if he's truly passionate about it, I'd be honored to help him pursue that passion. There was a pause on the other end of the line. "But David," Sarah said carefully, "what if he ends up struggling financially? What if he can't find a good job?" "Then I'll help him," I said simply. "That's what family does." As I hung up the phone, I realized that the story had come full circle. The disappointment had become the success story, the black sheep had become the mentor, and the family that had rejected my dreams had become the source of wisdom for the next generation. But the most important lesson I learned wasn't about proving people wrong or achieving financial success. It was about finding the courage to build the life you want, with the people who believe in you, regardless of who thinks you're making a mistake. Maya is 3 now, and she's already showing signs of mathematical thinking. She builds complex patterns with her blocks, asks profound questions about infinity, and sees numbers everywhere. Elena and I encourage her curiosity, answer her questions with the same excitement we bring to our professional research, and let her know that whatever passion she discovers, we'll support her completely. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I had chosen medicine instead of mathematics. Would I have been happier? More fulfilled? Would my family's approval have been worth abandoning my true calling? But then I look at the life I've built, the family I've chosen, the work that still excites me every single day, and I know I made the right choice. The path less traveled led me to exactly where I needed to be. The Garrison family's disappointment became my independence. Their rejection became my resilience. Their inability to see the value in my work became my motivation to prove that passion, not prestige, is the true measure of a life well lived. And in the end, that's the greatest victory of all. Not the money, not the recognition, not the satisfaction of proving them wrong. The greatest victory is the quiet confidence that comes from knowing you stayed true to yourself, even when the people closest to you couldn't see who you really were. My algorithms now power some of the most sophisticated trading systems in the world. My mathematical models help predict everything from market crashes to climate patterns. But my greatest creation isn't written in code or published in journals. It's the family I built with Elena, the foundation we created for future mathematical minds, and the example we're setting for Maya that dreams are worth pursuing, even when nobody else believes in them. The boy who was once considered the family disappointment became the man who learned that the most important approval is the one you give yourself. And that, more than any financial success, is the transformation that truly matters. If you've ever felt like the odd one out in your family, if you've ever chosen passion over prestige, if you've ever had to build your own support system when the people who should have supported you couldn't see your worth, share your story in the comments. Let's build a community of people who understand that sometimes the greatest success comes from having the courage to disappoint the right people. And if this story resonated with you, subscribe for more tales of transformation, triumph, and the families we choose for ourselves.